Welcome to Winning with Anna Lee. I'm your host, Anna Lee Leonard, president of Mainstay Financial Group, right on the corner of Cervantes and Perry. We've got a great show today. You know, the purpose of Mainstay Financial has always been to educate and to serve the community. So several years ago, we formed the Escarosa Senior Alliance, which is a group of businesses that have the same mentality we do. They serve the community, serve the same age group. Now, I did this for kind of a selfish reason, actually, because I wanted to make sure that if I told a client that someone is trustworthy, that you can visit that person, you can trust their advice, I wanted to make sure that what I was saying was true. So we formed the Escarosa Senior Alliance, group of businesses. We check people out. We make sure there's not anything in background that would deter anyone from saying, this is a good business for you to use. One of our first members of the Escarosa Senior Alliance was the Pensacola Assisted Living Locators, and that was Mr. John Horton. And John is my guest today. A little bit of background on John, and we won't hold it against you, but you were born in Indiana.
Yes, I was. I always say that I was born a Northerner, but by the grace of God, I've been in the South for a long period of time. So I'm more than happy to be down South. Trust me.
You see, that's why I keep him around. He knows the truth. So John, you had many years, about 23 years in the business world, and then you made the decision you wanted to go out on your own and do something that would give back to the community. And you started with assisted living locators. So tell me a little bit, if you would, what is the purpose of assisted living locators?
Assisted living locators is to help the same group that you mentioned about the Escarosa Alliance. We're here to help seniors, and as they get a little older and they're trying to make their way through the golden years, is what they say, and they're struggling a little bit and they're having some trouble. So we come in and we try to guide them to that next step, which might be assisted living, and try to give them information and resources how to make that happen and to guide them through that process.
So let's kind of go back a little bit as we're talking about aging. You know, I have a couple of clients that are in their 90s, late 90s, who are still extremely active, drive themselves to the office, handle all of their affairs, but sometimes illness becomes a part of the aging process, and that might be a cognitive impairment, it might be something, a fall, breaking of a hip that a person doesn't fully recover from, respiratory illnesses that sometimes don't let people get around. So sometimes people need help. Sometimes we can provide that in-home.
Correct.
If a person wants to stay in their home, we have different businesses we work with in that particular aspect, but sometimes they have to go somewhere else. Now, help me with this, and I think I have these right. We've got independent living places, assisted living, and then of course the nursing home communities. So let's kind of go through a little bit. What's the difference between them? The independent living is...
There's not a whole lot of difference between the independent living and the assisted living, because every assisted living wants the individual to live just as independent as they can and do everything for themselves that they can. But there's help there just in case they need it, maybe with one little part of their life, or whether they need it with a lot. But independent assisted living, almost all of them will take an independent person. Now, there are a couple of places their philosophy is geared towards the independent, and once they become a little more involved, then they would have to move to an assisted living to get extra care.
Okay, so let's go back for a minute. So independent living is just like the word sounds, isn't it?
Correct.
I mean, I can have my automobile, I can go where I want to go, I'm on my own, I can have meals in the dining room if I want to, I can have them in my room. I'm just independent. It's almost as though I'm now renting somewhere instead of owning my home.
That's true, and there are several benefits to it because they are getting older. I'm dealing with a lot more 90, 91 and up people who have done a very good job of staying at home as long as possible, but the upkeep of the house, there has been some illness and they're not recovering quite as quickly as they used to. There's been a fall that has changed the dynamics a little bit. The kids are getting a little concerned, and so they start looking for independent living or they start looking for assisted living, but in both they can come and go as they please. They can drive a car if they're capable of that, and they can come and take their meals, or they can go off for a week of vacation and do pretty much what they want. It's just the assisted living is just if they need a little bit of care with the ADLs, the daily livings, then...
And the ADL, explain that, please.
The ADLs are your activities of daily living.
Okay.
What normal expectancy from a physician is that they can cook, they can dress themselves, they can bathe themselves, they can take care of themselves, that independent living. But when those start breaking down a little bit, then it's time to start considering, okay, what can mom or dad do and what can't they do? What are they struggling with? How can we help them along that line? And so as there's a time when you can call in somebody who will go through the house, and just by looking at little significant things that are going on in that house and with the individual, you can say, well, they're struggling with this or they're struggling with that. Is the cook stove, has it been burnt? Is there a pot holder that's been burnt? Are there electrical cords across the floor that shouldn't be there? Are there bills strewn across the floor that haven't been opened or paid? And so it's just a matter of paying attention to see those signs of when it might be time for us to look into assisted living or other areas.
So some help. And I'm glad to hear you say that people can go in, because I know a lot of my clients who are in their 60s, their 70s, their parents are still alive. Parents very often resent a child coming in and saying, well, you know, Mom, it looks like you're having difficulty with paying the bills. We've noticed you're getting late notices. Or, Mom, let's check and make sure that the checking account has been balanced. Or, listen, I've noticed the prescription bottles are still full. And sometimes parents resent that because they see it as the child trying to take over. And most people just are not ready for that.
They're not.
So would you be one of the people that would go in and do that type of assessment, or would it be someone else?
Yeah, no, I'm more than happy to go in and visit with them. A lot of times what we have to do first is kind of be an in-between, because you're exactly right. The kids are saying, Mom and Dad, you know, it's time for you to start doing something else. And Mom and Dad says, we're fine.
We're fine.
Yeah, when you talk to them on the phone, they know all the answers. Are you eating right? Oh, yeah. Are you taking your medication? Certainly.
Yes.
And all those answers are correct. And then you go visit them like 2 months later and you look around and you say, oh my soul, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so it is very important to get them on board and have a conversation. And we're more than happy to have that conversation with them. I know you are a CSA and I'm a CSA as well, Certified Senior Advisor, and it's very helpful to be able to talk to those seniors and explain to them what's going on in their life, and they do accept it more from a stranger. The other thing that I tell the kids, if I go and talk to them, they can be mad at me and you can still be the kid and say, I don't know what the guy's talking about. So you know, it's good to have that conversation, and we're more than happy to go through and talk to them about different things and show them. A lot of the elderly, especially the 80 to 90-year-olds, their concept of assisted living is the same as a nursing home.
Totally different.
Oh, it's totally different.
They're looking at what it used to be.
Exactly right. And so they see themselves being put over in the corner and nobody's paying attention to them. And that's not what assisted living is all about.
No, it isn't. And, you know, I'd like to explain a little bit more the Certified Senior Advisor. That's a designation. It doesn't make me a better financial advisor. It doesn't make John a better assistant locator. It makes us better people at communicating with the people that we're serving and helping them, understanding them. It's a tremendous course. In fact, I actually was the first certified senior advisor in the Panhandle
Really?
years
I did
ago.
not know that.
Yeah, when the program first came out, I was the first one in this area that took that testing and did it remotely, and since have been back and actually did the classroom class.
Oh, good.
Which was eye-opening.
Yes.
Eye-opening,
Yes.
just a wonderful, wonderful class. So that does help us to communicate better, to know the correct questions to ask. And I think one of the important things is it teaches us to listen. Because the thing that most people need, I find, when they get into a frustrating situation, is for somebody to listen to them. What are the frustrations? What are the fears that you're going through? And very often, mom or dad will talk to you about the fears, but they will not talk to their child about them.
Nope.
Because that makes them vulnerable, and they don't want to do that. So the service that you give is just unbelievable. When we come back from break, I want to talk more about the process that you do and how it works. Can we do that?
Absolutely.
Good. We'll take a short break, and then when we come back, John and I are going to continue talking about finding a community where you would be best suited economically, socially, as you may need to think about, well, maybe it's time to move from home and not have all that upkeep. Maybe I do need somebody to help me with my medications. Maybe I do need a little bit more help. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it's the best thing that you can do. So when we come back, we'll continue the conversation.
Sounds good.
Good.
Retirement strategies come in all shapes and sizes. One strategy does not fit all when it comes to reaching your retirement goals, and considering all your options may be, well, more than you want to think about. So whether you're looking to retire or already living in retirement, you need a strategy tailor-made for you.
Hi, I'm Annalee Leonard with Mainstay Financial Group, and I'm here to design a financial plan for you and for those that you love.
Hart, what's going on?
I'm leaving.
Why? What did I do?
Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit.
Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just
Please, don't leave. Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Mainstay Financial Group offers advocacy and personal financial guidance in a caring environment. That's the heart of our practice. At Mainstay, we're dedicated to exemplary service and a caring relationship with our client, not with a number. Plan for the future now with Mainstay Financial Services.
Welcome back to Winning with Annalee. I'm your host, Annalee Leonard, president of Mainstay Financial Group, right on the corner of Cervantes and Perry. Today we're talking about something that's extremely important in the aging process. And we say the aging process, but sometimes this happens earlier in life too. But finding a community to live in where you are comfortable, you can afford to be there, and you can form a social network around yourself of people are the same age, similar interest. So to do that, I have a fellow member of our Escarosa Senior Alliance with me, John Horton, who owns assisted living locators. And part of your job is to go out and help people find the right spot. But you know, one of the things I talk to my clients about, and tell me how you feel about this, John, is that if we feel that process is occurring, I had a client recently I sent over to you. She'd been a widow for several years now and was starting to find the house just too much to keep up with. Was starting, since she had retired, finding herself more isolated. And we talked about the fact that maybe an independent living facility would be good for her. And I encouraged her to talk to you and make the decision herself before somebody else had to make it for her. How do you feel about that? I mean, do you think we should all at some point maybe kind of say, if this happens, this is where I want to be?
We definitely encourage that. In fact, even when we're talking to the seniors, we'll talk to the family too and say, what do you have in place? What do you have a plan for? Every time I listen to you speak, I know you say you got to have a plan. And we're the same way. So many people are crisis driven, and then they make poor decisions or they make rush decisions. It's an emotional thing. And that emotion takes over, and you've got kids barking at the parents and the parents barking back at the kids, or else they just go numb and silent where they don't want to give any information and they're just totally resistant. And then you've got the other side where the kids don't involve the parents, and they say, I'm just going to put them in the car and drive them, tell them we're going someplace and drop them off.
Not good. No.
Oh, please don't do that.
No.
And so we try to work with both of them and say, look, let's work on this right now, just like with your client that you had. She's okay with home care right now, but she's got a plan in place. She knows where she's going, where she wants to be, but she's got a plan B in case it doesn't work out.
And you know, to me, when people have been independent all of their lives, the client we're talking about, extremely independent woman, she's in her 90s, has taken care of herself, other people, all of her life. When she came in and said to me she was having concerns, that was my first thought, was let's call in John, let's talk about, let's go look at some of the communities and see where would you be comfortable, but also important, what can you afford? Because there's quite a range in price, isn't there, in the different facilities in this area?
You can basically get 3 hots and a cot for about $1,500 a month, but it can go up all the way up to almost $6,000 a month.
Wow.
And that's a big range, and a lot of it is amenities, a lot of it has to do with care, and but it's a confusing factor for a lot of people. And so we try to have all that information available.
Okay. So let's just say, and again, we'll go back to one of my clients, I have someone that I think needs to start looking. So I call you. What's the process at that point?
First thing that we like to do is have an assessment of the needs. I like to do it in person because I like to see who we're dealing with. I like to talk to the family, get the dynamics of what's going on, who's on board, who's not on board, so that we can smoothly transition to the talk about assisted living. And that I have done it over the phone, but I always like to follow up with a personal call, a personal interview also. And there we just ask questions. And like you were talking about earlier about listening, that's what we do. We listen. The more you talk to them and listen to them, you get more information, because they're only going to feed it to you a little at a time. And then they start to trust you, they'll feed you a little bit more. So you get them talking about their situation, and then you can make a good decision. And then the second thing is a thoughtful analysis and recommendations. So as I'm talking to them and taking an assessment, I'm filtering all the places in Pensacola through my mind that that's not going to work, this might work out, or you know what, this might be a very good fit. And we go through, like you said, the social side, the care level side, we go through the financial side, and we try to encourage them in all different directions to find that right place. And then we help them with the assisted selection process. And so we narrow it down through that interview or through that conversation to 3 places or maybe 4.
How many choices do we have in this area?
Yeah, in Pensacola, there are over 25 assisted livings,
Really?
and they're building 2 new ones right
Wow.
now.
So that's just Pensacola.
That's just the Pensacola area.
Is that that includes Milton or?
Yeah, that does include
Okay.
Milton and Pace, and it does include towards
Gulf Breeze.
and
Okay.
out that way. But it adds up if you go on past that area.
Sure.
And we do service that area also. But just in the Pensacola area and outlying areas, it's over 25. They're building new ones. There's plans. I talked to a gentleman yesterday. There's plans of building another one in the near future.
Wow.
And the age of aging is upon us.
Yes, it is. It's, you know what I call us,
Yeah.
don't you? The silver tsunami.
I agree.
It's these great baby boomers. I mean, we're coming. It's like a huge wave. Aging, many of us independent all of our lives.
Yep.
A lot of us still working, still out doing things, but the process is there and it's occurring. So we need to know what those choices are. And in the 25, you know, like you said, it might range from $1,500 a month, and there are one that is actually a little bit less for the needy who don't
Right.
have dollars, all the way up to $6,000 a month. There is a community here, one out in Fairhope, you actually can buy in, and they're what's called progressive living. It may be right for someone, may not. So that's one of the reasons I encourage people here, just like we do with everything else at Mainstay, is you work with your team. We sit in with John, with our client, on choosing particular places because we can help everybody understand what you can and cannot afford.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't do any good to say, I want to go over there in the $6,000 a month place when you can afford $1,800 a month.
Right.
So it's all got to be part of the process. And I like the way you brought up the social aspect. I know one of my clients a couple of years ago came in and she told me they had pretty well narrowed the process to 2 locations. And I knew her very well, and I know the 2 locations, and I had to say to herself and her daughter, I have highly got to recommend B, because B will more suit your educational level, your social background, your traveling that you've done. You will have people there that you will be able to communicate with that will keep you socially involved, whereas I don't think A's going to do that for you. So they did bring her to B. She could afford it, and she's very, very happy in that location. So your personality plays
It's
in.
all very important, the social aspect, and that's what you listen to, and that's why I like to do it a personal interview, because you get to see them and you can kind of catch where they've been, what they're doing, how they're adjusting to this new lifestyle, and so you try to gauge that in your process. And so that's when we sit down and we talk about the 3 places that we've talked about, and we talk about their philosophies and what they can give to them.
Okay. Do the assisted living, independent living locations here, do they require a contract, or if somebody goes in and they're there for 60 days or 90 days and they say, I just can't stay here? I mean, is there a problem then?
That's the wonderful thing about assisted living. You're not into a 6-month, 12-month contract with 99% of the places.
Okay.
It's a 30-day by 30-day contract. So technically, you could move in on the 1st of June, give them a 30-day notice, move out July 1st, and you don't owe anything.
You don't owe
You're
anything.
done.
That, and see, to me, that's a great thing.
It is.
So let's say you're taking some money to places, you know, you want to kind of get them aware of what's there, what fits in. Could I go visit somewhere, have a meal there, just get the feel of everything?
We strongly suggest that. One of the benefits of my services is we will actually transport you if you want to, or we'll meet you at the facility. We will walk you through with the tour so that you're asking the right questions, so that you can be an interpreter of the answers, so that you can make all this make sense. and we will help you set up a lunch. We encourage you because for seniors, food is very important.
Of course.
Yeah.
Especially if you're from Louisiana. I mean, come on.
And you go and you say, we want to see a meal, have a meal, we want to see a room, we want to get a feel. Sometimes the assisted livings will have a family night, and we encourage them to go visit that. Yeah, it's a big decision, and we expect them and want them to get as informed as possible.
And you know, you're striving the same thing that I teach at Mainstay Financial. It's education. You can't make a decision until you're educated. Now, once you're educated, you can make an enlightened and empowered decision. But before that, it's kind of like, well, there's the dartboard, here's the dart, boom.
Yeah.
Let me see where it lands. And that's not a good way to make a decision, whether it be in your financial world, where you're going to live. It's just a very, very important thing that the community has the ability to educate themselves on these matters. John, we still have a lot to talk about. Will you come back next month, please?
I'd be happy to. It's been my pleasure.
It has been great. I hope you have learned a lot. And if you want to reach John, we've got his number up. You can give him a call or call my office, 437-3127, and I promise you we'll get you to the right person at the right time. We'll see you next month.